Europa's Blood, a novel by James Daniel Shunk. In our last chapter, U-Jin Song and Robbie Moreland have tracked the briefcase thief and the time machine to the Batropolis spaceport. Song is determined to follow that machine wherever it goes. Without it, he can't return home to his proper time in history. In our next chapter, we start to see how the time machine will trigger immediate repercussions across Earth and the Outworld nations. Chapter 4. The Outworlds. The state ship Lightship was resting in M Sector in System Quad 1.582 near the SS Scimitar. The Lightship had been bound for Earth, while the Scimitar had her nose pointed toward Jupiter. The rendezvous point was just off Mars's border marker in interplanetary space. The flagship of the new fleet, a double A-class deep space vessel, Lightship, was the largest battleship built by Earth's governing body, the state. Forward of the conning towers were two heavy-caliber weapon turrets with a similar single turret below. Along the length of the ship were smaller anti-ship guns. In the center of the upper platform command bridge sat the Borg Wars veteran Captain Appleyard, with two senior staff overlooking the crew below. The bridge staff, dressed in light blue uniforms, monitored the ship's functions. Deep in thought, the captain stroked his salt-and-pepper mustache, looking beyond the big forward windows at the nearby Scimitar. The armrest panel built into the captain's chair came alive. It was the voice of his comms officer, who was seated with the other staff on the main deck below. "Skipper, we're being hailed," she said. "Give it to me, Ensign." "Aye, sir." A digital screen on Appleyard's armrest flipped to the face of a middle-aged man. His shiny black hair was unruly. "Captain Appleyard, this is Drogheda of the Scimitar." He dragged his words as if he were of superior rank. "Prepare for boarders. I have the Supreme Leader requesting your service." "What's this about?" Appleyard said. "You will know soon enough." "Understood, Drogheda," Appleyard said. "Lightship out." Half an hour later, the shuttle departed from the Scimitar and slowly traveled across the open space to the Lightship. A bay door opened and the shuttle slowly nestled in for docking. Appleyard made a call from his chair. "Comms, send a message to the Scimitar, telling her we have received our honored guest." The captain did not see it, but the comms officer typed a message on her console below. "Copied, sir. Sending now. And notify the on-duty deck chief to bring our guest to the command bridge." "Aye." Appleyard stood now staring out into space. "Peculiar. What does Remus need?" 10 minutes later, the elevator door slid open with a hiss. The elder statesman, Theobald Phineas, Remus X, sitting on a hover convalescence chair, knees covered in a blanket, quietly came onto the command bridge with his entourage of Secret Service people and a young female aide carrying a small lockbox. "Supreme Leader on the bridge," Appleyard said with a military snap. The bridge staff all stood. "Everyone at ease," Remus said with a tired half-salute. "Glad to be aboard, Captain." Appleyard looked into Remus's narrow, disinterested eyes and felt a cold chill wash over himself. To what does the Lightship owe this unexpected privilege and honor? Remus came up next to the captain. "Stephen, sorry, we have something urgent. Can we all go to your situation room?" "Of course." Appleyard turned on his heel and headed off the command bridge toward the hatch. "Chief Officer Ingston, you have the con." "Aye, Skipper." The leader of the Secret Service detail was a trim man named Zardo Karpov. He was the first through the door, his hand in his jacket, on the butt of his Park and West 12mm eruptor. Remus and the captain followed closely behind with the rest of the group. The Situation Room was bare, with a long window overlooking the bow's two heavy-caliber weapon turrets. In the middle of the room was an oval conference table surrounded by thin, sleek chairs. Appleyard slid into a side chair while Remus hovered up next to him. The Secret Service people moved around the perimeter. Two agents pulled out PADDs and began scanning the room. Appleyard knew they were looking for listening devices. The young aide stood behind Remus. The Supreme Leader held up his hand. "Captain, I am here on a most pressing matter. As you know, Earth has been in desperate trouble for some time. Drinkable water is at critically low levels. We have found ways to deal with this through rationing, which no longer works. We have not even been able to fill the ration coupons of late. Several cities have had full-scale rioting. Everyone is panicked, so we must turn to the only other accessible fresh source known to us. Under the jurisdiction of Water Acclimation and Reclaim, warships have barricaded one of the sister moons of Jupiter. I am here to oversee the military part for Wayar. However, I am here also out of special interest." "The War Division, sir? That is Van Carber?" Appleyard asked. "This means action against the Outworlds?" "Yes, against Jupiter's moon, Europa. Our choices are limited. We need her water." "We are deploying the light ship to J Sector, then?" The answer was slow coming. Remus seemed to be mulling over some of the facts. "Actually, I need you for another task, an extraordinary mission, something I have taken a personal interest in. First, a little background. A rogue has fallen into our laps with a weapon of unfathomable power." Remus's usual somber expression twisted into an ominous smile. "Outworlder?" "No, Stephen. A rogue from another time." "You must be joking." "No, I don't joke." Remus pulled a handkerchief from his sleeve and wiped his wrinkled face. His jowls shook as he talked. "This rogue is from—" Remus struggled with the exact math. "Around 500 years in our past. So, obviously, he doesn't have an implanted scanner. He can pass between outposts unrecognized. But the virus. We are providing for his health." "Fine, sir. Did you refer to him as a rogue? You mean he is a professional soldier?" Remus just nodded. Appleyard felt the back of his neck heat up. "Okay, just the one-time traveler?" "Well, no. He brought two others. These are different. Not soldiers at all. I guess you could call them civilians." "How do you know they aren't Outworlders?" Appleyard could not believe what the Supreme Leader was telling him. "Because," Remus said slowly, "bioscan. Military movements in J Sector could cause a scandal. So all this is classified. Only use top-sec cleared personnel. And no leaks." "You mentioned a weapon? What could their time possibly have?" "A time machine of sorts," Remus said condescendingly. "A machine that can open a wormhole." "I can't believe it. Wouldn't we already know about it if it had been built in our past?" I asked myself this same question. I did some research. It must have disappeared somehow before it could ever become public knowledge. The timeline is exactly as we see it. The machine spent a short time undiscovered in the past, and some fluke put it here. My best guess is that the earlier quantum jump rocket engine research had created a rogue wormhole with no ability to recreate it. This research is the first ever reported use of exotic matter/antimatter. I can't answer any questions about this yet, as it is all under investigation. It's quite an opportunity as we have never been able to reproduce this sort of research. Extraordinary. Remus now looked happy, and it was short-lived. Except I am having a practical problem to work through. "Sir? A problem with the weapon? Explain." It doesn't work. It's missing a key. This key is my project of special interest. That is why I am sitting here. I want that key. My FTL division has been researching wormholes, and this machine can make wormholes. Our time traveler has offered two things. Captain, of course, he brought the machine, which I am happy about. Second, this rogue could sneak onto any Outworld undetected, and he won't match the descriptions of our known State Department agents. Will the rogue help? Yes, Remus said. For a price. Public opinion would be against us meddling in J sector. We all can learn from history, the Borg Wars, for one. This sort of Outworld action can cause all sorts of issues if it goes public. Specifically, it isn't good for the state's economy. This brings me grief. I don't like grief. I don't want any leaks. Remus bit his short fingernails. He looked over at his young aide, Barbara de Chardin. Dear. The young woman brought up the lockbox and placed it on the table before him. Her hand brushed his arm as she retreated. He put his thumb onto a biometric fingerprint scanner over the lock, which snapped open with a quiet beep. From underneath a chrome handgun, he pulled out a PADD and laid it on the table. I have the classified information for you. I will beam it now. Appleyard touched the tabletop. A hidden computer screen folded up, revealing a touchpad. The screen came alive. He read, Operation Boomslang. The mission is comprised of two parts. Remus pinched the bridge of his nose and frowned. First, with your help, we will pick up our rogue and the time machine from Earth. Then you will bring me back to rendezvous with my ship. This will give us time to review the mission parameters. Then, in the Scimitar, I will take the rogue and the machine and journey on to J sector. I, working closely with WAR, plan to use him to infiltrate Europa and sabotage their security grid. Without disabling this grid, we will be powerless to occupy Europa and take possession of the water resource. What's the second part? My project of special interest. After you have dropped me at my ship, you will be responsible for finding the time machine key. Without the key, the machine is useless. My FTL research will suffer. Get my point? Find the key? Appleyard felt a sensation of panic wash over him. He was now reviewing the boomslang operation logistics on the screen. This doesn't say much. Remus nodded slowly. Well, I will give you more details as the situation develops. Appleyard took a long moment to process the puzzle. Is this where the two civilians you mentioned factor in? Yes, that is exceedingly astute, Stephen. These two civilians have the key. We don't know much about them except that one is named Robert Moreland. As I said, and will say again, the whole matter is under investigation. 2 police officers had them briefly, but the 2 young men escaped. Last seen in Batropolis, USA Province. Appleyard was reviewing the mission history. Find this key. No known location of this Robert Moreland fellow or his unknown associate? Appleyard was asking with a shake of the head. Only what you are reading. We don't have anything more specific. Appleyard asked the next thing quickly. Shouldn't you let local Earth authorities handle this? That's not an option. Again, all this is highly classified. War has full jurisdiction, and we are doing everything possible to assist. The Bullseye Military Base, Callisto, Jupiter. On the Jupiterian moon called Callisto was the Bullseye Military Base, which sat expectantly in the Bullseye Basin in the Valhalla Valley of the Northern Hemisphere. The Bullseye was home to the Royal Military Command Center. It was the hub of the entire Royal Infantry, Navy, and Special Forces. Here in Complex D were also the Peace Initiative Intelligence Center, training grounds, and landing bays. One building of most interest within D was called the Kratos and was home to the senior PI staff. The third floor of the Kratos was where the director and agents worked. The most notable of this staff was Prince Toak, from the royal house of the battering ram. Toak rushed down the Kratos corridor with his top captain, a lioness called Nyala. The two headed toward the king's private chamber, called Helix Hall. Toak saw the iron double doors just ahead. He had gotten word that his father, King Bakabota, was available to talk. They had urgent business to discuss. The king had arrived from Ganymede, home of the capital city and the royal estate. Two members of the royal guard, Bakabota's private army, were stationed outside. The two stout rams stood at attention, with halberds at their sides. "Your father is expecting you," said one. Toak knocked 3 times before pushing the doors open. In the Stark Room's center was a large oval marble table, where the king sat hunched over a computerized workstation. Under his feet, embedded in the polished marble floor, was the round royal seal, an image of 2 rams locked head to head. With him sat his commanders, Basonga, a lion who was a general of the royal infantry, and an African elephant, Musai, an admiral of the Royal Navy fleet, and, finally, his best friend and chief aide and government liaison, the elderly Ram Senate leader, Zororis. Toak grabbed Nyala's flak vest firmly. "Wait here." He walked into the room and stopped short of the table. "Father, I have bad news." King Bakabota was a heavy ram with twisted horns. He wore a white tunic and a long gold velvet cape over his shoulders. His long gray hair streamed over his back, and his matching beard reached down to his gold belt. Over his thinning hair lay a gold crown decorated with sapphires, emeralds, and jade. Toak was now trying to formulate the best way to break the tragic news to the king. "Sorry, my lord. Good morning," the teenage cyborg ram said. "Good timing," Bakabota said. "We were talking about the Halo Demon Communications satellite system that the state seems to be giving us for free. Neither myself nor the others here think we should allow them to install it. What do you think? You have studied it. Am I correct?" "Yes, I have read all the schematics. I also reviewed this with the Martian PM. We agree that it would be a big jump forward for us. Our old communication satellite system needs to be replaced anyway. And with the Halo system, our comm latency disappears, even in deep space. So I would endorse it." "What is the angle?" Zororis said. "Why is the state giving it? That is where we are struggling." "I think they are doing it for selfish reasons," Toak said. "Comm latency is not good for us, but it is also not good for them. They do use our communication satellites when in the Outworlds." "Makes sense," Basonga said. "I also agree," Musai added. "The latency issue is one of our biggest problems." Bakabota's smile seemed to close the topic. "Okay, good. So, kid, what brings you to us?" "Speaking of the state, I have news of betrayal." The king's eyes fell on the prince. He waved him in. "Come closer." He pushed his heavy cape off his shoulders. His black eyes narrowed as he frowned. "Let me get a look at you. I have not seen much of you over the last year. Your mother keeps asking about you. Where is your royal gown?" Toak looked down at his camouflage fatigue pants and army boots, feeling self-conscious and embarrassed. However, not all of him followed human social standards. His torso was proud and bare. Only the females wore shirts. "Here at the Kratos, I function as a director, and not as royalty. Our family has ruled the kingdom for 4 decades. Your grandfather had led the 4 sister moons of Jupiter through the 5 years of the Borg Wars to freedom. He single-handedly organized the resistance and is the greatest leader in our history. And you are not functioning as royalty? The king barked out a laugh. I agree. Sorry, father. Grandfather Kell was a great leader, a great ram, and a great symbol. The resistance would have never formed if it had not been for him. I did not mean to disparage him or his memory. Bosonga laughed next. Leave the kid alone. It is all true, Zororis said. If the state had its way, we would still be ice miner slaves. And remember, Kell was not only a warrior, but a great strategist. That is his gift to us. I still dream I could have been in that first great battle of the pass, Bosonga said with another laugh. I am sure the state still looks back on that, wondering how they could have been so blind. I could picture myself with that first army of 50,000 rams flowing over the state like water. Even now, my blood starts to pump. And that horrific war is why there are so few of us brothers today. It is no longer 2451, Musai said with a disappointed tone, and that first group of warriors was more martyrs than soldiers. If you remember, nearly every one of them eventually died. That is the part that everyone forgets to say. But I agree. Blood is always a worthy payment for freedom. Zororis was now nodding. Let's not forget that Kell died fighting for it all. A true martyr of freedom. Bosonga pushed his dreadlocks off his shoulders. He lifted his chin and pushed back his shoulders. Yes, I remember it. The battle for Bao in 2456. Zororis tried to finish the thought. Exactly. He would never see the promised land. Towak dropped his head in remembrance of his grandfather. After a moment, he raised his eyes with resolve. It is time to be wise and to continue to be one step ahead of the state. That is our plan now. Right, father? The king waved away the reminiscing. Okay, why are you here? What was so important? We are all talking of the right thing, Towak said. Yes, we won the Borg Wars and have Europa and fresh water, but the state is left with nothing. When they walked away from it all, they never realized at the time that it was something that could never be walked away from. They have been haunted. The toxic water on Earth is killing them. These deaths remind them all the more of their failure. None of this is news. Yes, it is highly ironic, the big African elephant said. And we Anaborgs, who had been designed to mine the water, left to an existence of slavery, have now found lives on these 4 sister moons. I fear the Borg Wars may have never ended, Towak said, while shaking his head in disgust, but just postponed time and time again. State warships have closed in around our great pearl, Europa. The state has sent communications informing us we can no longer move water in or out of Galileo Station. We're at their mercy, my lord. A blockade? Bakabota said. They give us Halo on the one hand, then hope to steal water on the other? Father, some are saying that Halo is a sort of bribe. Perhaps they are expecting us now to negotiate. And to emphasize their determination, they destroyed an Anaborg Royal Coast Guard cutter in the first skirmish. Many brothers were killed. This happened in orbit near Europa. Bakabota hit the table with his fist. The dregs! We will resist as long as I have breath in my lungs and blood in my veins. Our hearts will carry us, kid. Of course, my lord. Organize a PI team, then get the Earth dregs on the comm. I don't care what channels you go through. I will contact the Martian dynasty myself to seek aid. A team? Yes, of course, as soon as possible. We will take swift, decisive action against this. Gather your peace initiative agents. Get me a solution. Since we involve the PI and not the military, you want a peaceful solution. That is our first choice. After you leave, I will discuss with my commanders what action will be taken if you fail. And the military won't be mobilized at all? Towak's eyes passed from Bosonga to Musai. Is this only with PI staff, or should we mobilize the Royal Navy and infantry? Let's not use force, Zororis said. Maybe we can still keep Halo. Bakabota was already looking away from his son. As I said, I will deal with the military. And Martian Defense Minister Beatifico Cathini? Towak asked. He now had a scowl on his face. We will need her support if we are organizing PI action. Will you be calling? Cathini? Bakabota chuckled. You deal with her. Just let her know the importance of a PI success. Military action will cost us Halo. Zororis held up a hand. I need to remind you all of something before the planning. Bakabota breathed in with deep displeasure. What? What? Remember so long ago, sadly, what had been left even after freedom? Soulless beasts that would have to begin the process of building lives for themselves and, with life, the question of its meaning. Are we meant for something more than slavery? Gyalnam, the great prophet, would answer some of these questions. He brought us knowledge of an all-knowing spiritual being that would help us find our hearts and, more importantly, our path. Bakabota sat back in his chair. What are you saying, old one? Zororis dropped his hand and put them together in front of his heart. We must pray that the path we choose here is right. Bakabota groaned. And that is why we use the PY in hopes of a peaceful solution. Now I tell you to pray for us. He looked hard at his son. Go. Honor with us all, my lord. May the one God be with us. Towak turned and walked toward the doors. Bakabota refocused his attention toward his computer workstation. Let's also hope that Gyalnam has not forgotten us. Towak, now outside the chamber, looked back once, considering all that had been said, and then quietly used his robotic hand to close the heavy chamber doors. With his captain in tow, he disappeared down the dimly lit corridor.